This is your Star Citizen 318 tutorial. We have a lot to cover in this video, but everything here is going to help you get off your feet and in the air for Star Citizen's biggest patch ever. So before we jump in, quick 30 seconds, what is Star Citizen? In a nutshell, Star Citizen is a massive choose your own adventure, space sim, universe sim, open world game that's working on becoming an MMO. There's trading, mining, salvaging, bounty hunting, box delivery, and racing. You can find players and NPCs. There's medical and healing, inventory, and looting. But the most important thing to know is that it is early access and you are going to run into problems. This update introduced a huge backend update called PES, or Persistent Entity Streaming, and it's broken a bit of, well, everything. I didn't even bother posting a 318 tutorial because it was so unplayable. However, most of the major issues have been resolved. If I haven't scared you off already, I'll go over some quick fixes for the remaining issues here in a minute. The good news is there's a ton of people in the community that are willing to help you. Check out the Star Citizen guide system in the description, or you can ask me live on stream. Now that we have that out of the way, the first thing you're going to do is head to the website, robertspaceindustries.com, or you can use the link in the description for 5,000 extra credits. At the top right, click Account and then Enlist Now. If you use the referral link, you're going to fill out the info and the referral code should already be filled in. After you make your account, you're going to head to the Pledge store. I'm going to give you my recommendation, the Aurora Starter Package. Yes, you could go with the Titan, the Cutter, and I think the Titan is the best for $70. But once you get the hang of it, it's extremely easy to get ships in-game. So unless you want to go above and beyond to support the project, there's really no reason to spend more than $45. So for this tutorial, we're going to be using the Aurora. After you checked out, you're going to click Play Now in the top right. You're going to want minimum 16 gigabytes of RAM, and you definitely want an SSD for Star Citizen. Please do not put Star Citizen on a hard drive. Please. You'll need a decent CPU and GPU combo, but if you're curious if Star Citizen will run on your PC, check out the telemetry link in the description. Once you have all the requirements done, you're going to click Download Now. Once you have the launcher open, sign in and launch the game. At the main menu, you're going to head to Options bottom left. I run borderless windowed and I have it very high on all my settings except planetary volumetric clouds. Turning these to medium or off will give you a huge FPS boost in places like Orison. My field of view is 100, motion blur off, VSync no unless you're a streamer, sharpening and chromatic aberration to 0, and film grain no. Back on the main menu, you're going to have three options: Arena Commander, which is dogfighting practice, Star Marine, which is FPS practice, and Persistent Universe, or PU. You're going to click that, and when you do, it's going to ask you to build a character. You can spend a lot of time doing this, and you can come back whenever by hitting character customization. So for now, we're just going to click OK. You'll hit Stanton System, and there are 4 places you can choose to start: Orison, Loraville, Area 18, and New Babbage. For the sake of being a new player, we're going to pick New Babbage. Keep in mind you can only set your residence once a patch. After that, you're going to log in the last place you called for landing. Now they're ready, let's launch into the PU. The very first thing you'll notice in this game is you're going to interact with a lot of stuff. By tapping or holding F, you can use the interaction mode, or you can hold Y to get out of your bed. And the next thing you'll interact with here is the door. As you start walking around, your default speed is pretty slow. So if you just scroll wheel up, your character will start moving a lot faster. Then if you hold shift, you'll run even faster than that. This also works when you're holding boxes. In Star Citizen, you'll notice there's a lot of signs, and they're typically pretty helpful. A neat trick you can do is hold F and scroll wheel forward to kind of do this digital zoom, which is helpful in lots of scenarios, not just reading signs. But if you go to the screen on the elevator and do the digital zoom, it kind of makes the screen freak out. So instead, you're going to middle click on the screen while holding F, and that allows you to scroll freely without the pain. So we'll click the lobby button and head downstairs. Heading out, you'll see 2 places, the hospital, and we're going to talk about medical here in a minute. So we're going to head down to the metro loop to the left. 2 destinations here, we have the spaceport and the commons. You can head to the spaceport if you want to, but I'm going to show you how to gear up at the commons. While we're on the metro loop, I want to show you if you hold F and then right click, it will bring up the quick interaction wheel. You can do a lot of stuff in this, and I personally don't use it a lot. The most helpful thing for this quick interaction wheel is the status system. Bottom left, you can see your drug blood level, your hydration, food, body status, temperature, oxygen. So if you ever need to figure that stuff out quick, you can just F and right click. Anything you can do with a keybind, you can also do here. It will even tell me what keybind is attached to that action. Now that we're in the commons, there are two sides. The Promenade, which is fancy, cosmetic. Then there's the new Babbage Plaza. This is where the good stuff is, the FPS weapons, the ship parts, and that's where we want to go. Head to the left, and both the places we need are right here. Our first stop being Shubin Interstellar. We're going to head to the console here and sort by armor. Make sure when buying stuff, your destination is set to new Babbage. If not, it will be somewhere goofy like your pockets where you can't fit armor or guns, and it will just say transaction failed. You're going to want a helmet, a chest piece, arms, legs, and a backpack. Keep in mind that Star Citizen is a full loot PvP game. If you die, you can be looted. Your buddy can bring your stuff back to you. There's also so many opportunities in Star Citizen to loot your own gear. Caves, bunkers, outposts, pretty much any location in Star Citizen you can find stuff to loot. Just keep in mind you can lose it. Armor and weapons are relatively cheap, so it's not too bad to die in this game. Now that we have our armor, we're going to head to Center Mass. Head to the console, and then you're going to sort by personal weapons. You can choose whatever weapon you like. Personally, I'm going to recommend the P4 AR. There are much better guns than this one, but typically you got to loot the good ones. Make sure to buy extra ammo under attachments, and grab a Delta side while you're at it. If you're lost on finding stuff, there is a search bar, and it is really helpful. Last thing you'll need is a few med pins, which should be under miscellaneous. You'll buy 3 to 6 of these. It's always good to keep spare medical on you. So we bought all this gear, now let's equip it. Press I, and that's going to bring us into the inventory system. You can see here that there is a filtering system that's actually really useful. You can sort by undersuits, armor, clothing, weapons, ammo. You get the idea. We'll sort by armor here. Now there's a couple ways you can equip yourself. You can either double click and equip, drag and drop them onto your character, or you can right click and equip. There's also now a move all and a quick move bound to left shift plus left click. This can be extremely helpful after you've done a bunch of missions and need to drop items off quick. 318 also brings in proximity looting, or you need to pick up something or equip something that's on the ground. It's super quick and easy. Now that you know the basics, let's equip our weapon in weapon sight by double clicking the weapon first and then the sight. The inventory system is smart enough to know it should go straight on the weapon. When it comes to ammos and consumables, you can either double click to equip, or you can drag it onto the slots labeled 1 through 4, 1 through 8, however many you have available on your armor. This dotted circle that's around it is the capacity of the ammo. So if you've used half, it's going to be half dotted. It's always good to have extras considering ammo and medical are dirt cheap. Now that we're geared up, let's head out the same way we came in. Down the metro loop into the spaceport. Once you're off the tram, you're going to head up to customs. You'll head up the stairs and you're going to have a few areas. We're going to focus on the hangars, and if you look behind you, the ship rentals are right next door. But we don't need to do that today, so let's head to the ASOP consoles. This is something you're going to get really familiar with. This is where all your ships and information about them is. Is it stored? Is it destroyed? Where is it at, and what kind of ship is it? How much crew does it have, its cargo, and then you'll be able to retrieve it here at the end. Deliver is just a new step for the ships on the back end. It keeps your ship in limbo until it's been delivered. Once it's been delivered, it cannot be undelivered. It can only be retrieved, stored, or claimed. We'll select our Aurora. We'll head to Hangar 4, and we'll look for the interaction on the ship. You're looking for a door or a ramp. Next, before you do anything, you're going to go to options. You're going to go to advanced controls. Then you're going to click on flight movement. Go all the way to the bottom. You're going to look for a keybind called request landing. This is how you're going to request to take off and land. It's default left alt and N, and you can keep it that if you want to. But I set mine to F3 because it's just easier. Back in your ship, you're going to hold F and there are a few options in front of you. Flight ready is what you're looking for. But if you hold R, that is also going to flight ready your ship. Now you're wondering, how do I get out of the hangar? You're going to press F3 or whatever key you just bound to call ATC. Very gently, you are going to press spacebar. Spacebar makes you go up. Control makes you go down. A goes to the left. D goes to the right. S goes backwards. W goes forward. Q and E are for your rolls. If you hold shift, that is going to engage your afterburner. If you hold X, that will slow you down. Now this cursor in front of you is a V-joy, and it's what controls your pitch and your yaw on your ship. And the farther you pull it, the faster your ship will turn. If this range feels way too big for you like it did mine, you can go to game settings and find V-joy range, pitch, and yaw. I have mine set to 8. I think the default is 20. Next, we're going to talk about our MFDs and HUD. At the bottom from left to right, we have our VTOL, which is vertical takeoff and landing. The command is K. I don't think there's a starter ship that has this, so don't worry about it. Then we have coupled. Now, what is coupled? Whether you're in atmosphere or space, you're always going to end up back at 0. If I hit Alt-C, you'll notice I start to fall. I start to feel the effects of gravity. I'd highly recommend keeping this on while you're learning. Next, we have ESP, which, trust me, do not bind something to turn this off. It's enhanced stick precision, and it's helping you. Next, we have landing gear, which you can raise up by pressing N. On the left here, we have our speed gauge, which is meters per second. This white little box next to it is the speed limiter, and you can control this with your scroll wheel. You can turn this down if you're worried about going too fast, or turn it up if you want to go faster. Then on the right, we have our altitude meter, which we'll use here in just a second. Next, we have our ammo capacitors for our weapons. Then at the bottom, we have our hydrogen fuel, which is flying around normally fuel. And then we have quantum fuel, which is used for big quantum jumps. Then we have our weapon lock mode, which we'll talk about in a minute. Then we have our decoy and noise for countering missiles. So we're going to do our first quantum jump. We're going to use our altitude meter to head to the minimum jump range of 11,000 meters. While you're on your way, if you're in coupled mode, you can press C for cruise control. If you're going to use cruise control, make sure to turn it off. If you don't, you will crash, you will die, and you will be sad. While we're heading up, let's talk about the two symbols in the top right-hand corner. The bullet with the X through it means armistice zone. Now, all landing zones are non-fire zones. You cannot fire. But everywhere else that's an armistice zone, you can fire. You will just get in trouble for doing so. The satellite means you're in monitored zone, which means if you commit a crime like shooting another player, you're going to get in trouble. If there's no satellite, there's no CrimeStat. Now that we're at jump height, we're going to press B, and that's going to turn on our quantum drive. We're going to look around for Port Tressler. Once it's done spooling, we can hold B to initiate, but we're actually going to use the star map here. So if you press F2, this green triangle here, that's you, and this is Microtech. If you double click Microtech, you'll zoom in. Then you can scroll wheel forward, and if you hold left click, you can kind of pivot around. Click on Tressler here and then set route. You'll see when you press B again, there are no other quantum destinations in the sky. You'll hold B and quantum jump to Tressler. Watch your speed as you come in. Once you're there, go ahead and press F3 again to call for landing. Your hangar is going to have an icon that looks like a downward arrow inside of a circle. Come in slowly, make sure you put landing gear down within. Once you're landed in your hangar, you can press I to engine off. The reason why you press I is it only turns engines off. It's a good habit. It keeps your shields on. You're going to hold Y to get out of your seat. All right, are you still with me? The reason I like stations instead of planetary landing zones is because they're easier to get in and out of. You don't have to exit Atmo, and you don't have to ride a tram. Every station has a medical clinic near the HABs. So when you enter the clinic, there's going to be 2 kiosks. This is the one you click if you needed medical assistance. The one over here is for transferring your imprint. Your imprint is a copy of your DNA. Wherever this is set is where you'll spawn when you die. Just click transfer imprint and confirm, and you're good to go. So now if you do something stupid like go into space without an undersuit, or if you have some crazy bug and you die or you hold backspace, when you wake up, you'll be back here at this clinic. You will always come back to this clinic unless you set it to a different clinic. Next, also here is the pharmacy. Personally, I really like this med gun. It's reusable, you can heal your friends with it, and if you press B, you can heal yourself. If you have a med pin, you're going to press C to pull it out or hold C to select it. You can click mouse 1 to use your med pin or mouse 2 to use it on someone else. Like this guy. No, I'm just kidding. You can't use it on NPCs. And the last thing we'll do before we head out to our mission is the Mobi-Glass. The Mobi-Glass has all the essential player information. If you press F1, this is going to bring up the general screen. Your name, money, CrimeStat, basic information. Bottom left, the first tab you're going to click is ComLink. This is where you call for landing, but it's also where you can see global chat, everyone who's on the server, who's in your ship, the people in your party. You can right-click people and invite them to your party, and even add and remove friends. Top right under Manage, you can click to send chats to your visor, change chat color, and you can even change the volume of incoming and outgoing sounds from you and others' microphones. Next is the Vehicle Loadout Manager. This is where you can make upgrades to your ship after you've bought components. Now, what's important for you to know is that ship changes are only in the current location and only when they're stored. If you buy a component in Microtech, but your ship is all the way at Orison, you're either going to have to bring the ship here or reclaim it at that location. There's too much to talk about in this video, but Urkel.games is the best for ship customization in Star Citizen. Head to the website and then simply put in your ship on the top right. Change the components that you like. I'd recommend laser repeaters and military grade A components. Click the tab on the left side of each component to highlight them. It should turn blue, and then bottom right it will show you where to get them. In the description I have 2 links, one for each starter ship, the Mustang and Aurora. All these components are available at Center Mass or Omega Pro down at New Babbage where we were earlier. If you plan on playing Star Citizen long term, definitely bookmark Urkel.games. And if you can take a trip to Hurl 5 at some point for a QT drive, the Atlas is 100% worth it for size 1. Port Wrestler has XL1s for size 2. Next we have Knickknacks, which is the new system for physicalized inventory, where you can see all your items and where those items are. I hardly ever use this because it's kinda clunky, but it might be helpful for tracking items down. Then we have the main reason why we use the Mobi-Glass, the star map. On the star map, we have 4 planets: Microtech, Hurston, Arcorp, and Crusader. They all have moons and different locations around them you can explore. If you double click on one of these planets, it will zoom in. You can also use the scroll wheel to zoom in and out. If you hold left click or right click, you can pivot to navigate the map better. And if it bugs out and it's not working and it gets all zoomed in or black like this, you can always double right click and that will reset your zoom all the way out. You will have to be in a ship to set a route on the star map, but when you do, the box in the top left will show your QT fuel, how much QT fuel it takes to get there, and how many number of seconds it will take to get there. Next, we have the Mode Trader, which lets you send aUEC to friends or other people in-game for goods or services. But remember, there's going to be a small charge for any amount of money you send. The next big one is the Contract Manager. There's a bunch of different missions here: delivery, search, investigation, bounty hunting. The General tab is where more lawful missions are. But when you go to Personal, we have a mercenary mission to take down UEE security, which, you guessed it, is illegal. Under Accepted, you have your current missions, and under History, you have the missions you've already done or failed. Beacons is where you can pay other players to do stuff for you. You could, for example, set up a personal beacon to Tressler, and sometimes people will do it. Pro tip: accept call to arms every time you log in. You'll get an extra 500 aUEC each time you take a bad guy down. But make sure when you accept a new mission, you track them, or you'll be stuck tracking call to arms. Last step is the Reputation app. Whenever you do missions, this is where you'll see the reputation you have with different factions in Star Citizen. So for example, when you're doing PvE bounty hunting, each tier that you get higher on rep with Microtech security, you're going to be able to do higher and higher missions. And that is it for the Mobi-Glass. So before we do our first mission, we're going to go do our last stupid thing. If we head outside back to our ship and we head outside of Armistice Zone, when you're in any ship, you can hold backspace to set your self-destruct. Unfortunately, the Aurora doesn't have one, but you can hold right Alt and Y to eject from most single-seat ships. Once we're back at Tressler, we're going to see at the ship terminal that our Aurora is destroyed. And this is no big deal. Don't be afraid to die or lose your ship in Star Citizen. You can always get it back. Here on the console, you're going to have to claim it. Because it's a starter ship, it's going to claim extremely fast. You can see that if we pay an expedite fee, it claims instantly. This is only the case for starter ships. The rule of thumb is the bigger the ship, the longer the reclaim. So we'll call our ship out and we'll head to our first mission. Now there's a lot of missions in Star Citizen and I'm going to list the pros and cons of a few. To be honest, there is not a lot of solid starter missions at the moment. Bunker missions are a super easy FPS mission where you go into a bunker and take down some bad guys. You can get special loot like railguns, snipers, LMGs, and at maximum rep, they can pay out about 95k per bunker. So it can be very good money. And if you ever played FPS games, you'll pick them up pretty easy. The only downside is if you're doing a criminal bunker, you have to land 2k away from the turrets. Otherwise, you have to kill them, which can be really hard, or find nearby cover while you're being fired upon, which can be really hard, or have a ground vehicle to drive to the bunker. I would completely stay away from box missions at the moment. Sometimes it'll ask you to deliver packages across the system for pennies. Sometimes the box doesn't spawn, sometimes it does spawn, but you can't pick it up. Sometimes you can't turn the box in. They're really not working at the moment and I would avoid them. We're going to highlight PvE bounty hunting. But if this is your first time flying in a video game, you might have trouble killing the NPCs. So fly careful. For this mission, we're going to pick up the tracking training permit under bounty hunting. This will give you a random location to fly to around Stanton. But to keep things simple, I'm going to keep abandoning the mission until it gives me one near Microtech. Clio, Calliope, and Euterpe are the moons you're looking for, but you can also get it on Microtech. You'll jump to the location, and before we get started, we need to talk about Star Citizen combat. It is a complicated topic, but here's a quick overview. Starting with capacitors. Capacitors give you extra power in either weapons, engines, or shields, using F5 through 8. When your power is into weapons, you'll get 30% more shots. When it's in shields, you'll get 30% more resistance. And when it's in engines, you'll burn through Afterburner 30% slower. And with all three, you're going to recover faster with the power active in that capacitor. If you're just starting out, I would leave it default. This is going to give you a 33 split across all three. However, for keyboards to have easier access, I'd recommend setting tap to increase, hold to max. 1 for weapons, 2 for engines, and 3 for shields. 4 to reset capacitors. That way you're not reaching across your keyboard in the middle of combat. 1, 2, 3, and 4 are typically used for the target pinning system, which I promise is not more important than your capacitors. Next is gimbals. But to do this, you have to have gimbals equipped in the Vehicle Loadout Manager. Some ships come default with gimbals and some don't. How gimbals work is they help you aim, but at the cost of downsizing your weapon. A size 3 gimbal goes to a size 2 weapon, a size 2 gimbal goes to a size 1 weapon, so on and so forth. If you tap G, you can cycle through the gimbaled modes, first being fixed or lock, which I prefer and all good pilots use. This one's straightforward, your ship will shoot wherever your crosshair is. Next is auto or auto gimbal. That means that anything inside this dotted circle will give you assistance for helping track your target. This can be really helpful when learning the game, but I would switch to fixed as soon as possible. Then we have true gimbaled mode, which allows you to aim your gimbals freely inside the circular range. The second you see the red chevron or marker, you can press T to target them, or Alt-T to untarget. Then you're going to aim for the PIP, or predictive impact point. The PIP will expand when you're in the correct firing range, which is usually under 1,000 meters. An easy maneuver to not get killed is to hold spacebar and strafe above your target like so. You want to be doing a circular motion around your target. But if you're taking too much damage, hold Shift plus W and leave until your shields come back. To fire missiles, you're going to middle click to enter missile operator mode. Press G to increase the amount of missiles you're shooting up to 4. Right click to change the missile you are using if you have them. You want to wait until the green circle is wrapped fully around your opponent and then left click to fire. If you get missiled while flying, you'll get this notification. Pressing H is going to release a decoy, or holding H will release multiple. Contrary to popular belief, these work against all types of missiles: cross-section, infrared, and electromagnetic. Missiles are usually very easy to shake off. However, missiles are brutal this patch, and that's because decoys are lagging when you use them. For your second countermeasure, you'll press J. That's going to release a chaff cloud that is going to block sensors temporarily, but you have to stay inside the cloud. If you do take too much damage, you'll go into soft death, which means that your ship is going to turn off and you'll even lose gravity. But since NPCs cannot tell when you're in soft death, they'll just continue to shoot you and you'll probably die pretty quick. Soft death is a new feature in 3.18 that allows for boarding, piracy, rescue, and survivability to be much more viable. But until NPCs de-aggro you when you enter it, or they increase the health of soft death dramatically, it's far from useful at the moment. Keep shooting, and once your main target explodes, it's job well done. There's no need to kill all the NPCs unless you want to. For more on combat, check out my combat guide here. And for more info on NPC bounty hunting, check out my Don't Buy Ships with Real Money video here. The last great mission I'll recommend is Seize the Data for 50k aUEC. This is a non-criminal mission, but you'll get it in the personal tab around Microtech. It spawns periodically, so that means it's not always up. The gist of the mission is you fly to location and board the ship. Once you find the hacking chip, you kill a few NPCs and then put the hacking chip in the database. After that, you'll have to destroy the ship. You're supposed to self-destruct the ship, but as a new player, if you're not confident you can make it out of the ship in 1 minute and 10 seconds, you can always turn off the ship's shields by going to the pilot seat and pressing O. Then just shoot the ship until it dies. It may take a minute in your default starter ship, but it's going to be better than accidentally dying from self-destructing. Plenty of extra time here. I definitely wasn't worried at all. Now that we're done with our mission, when you get back, you're going to want to land and repair. On the way in, you'll call for a hangar using that F3 key, or left alt and in if you left it default. That, or if there's space, stations like these usually have outer pads you can repair on. You're going to hit the Mobi-Glass and go to Vehicle Maintenance Services. All you have to do is click each service once and then wait until the repair messages disappear. And finally, the last thing you need to know before this tutorial is done: the criminal system. Let's talk about it. So we're back at Tressler and we've decided to commit some crime. My brave little Aurora is going to take on UE security, and I have a feeling it's not going to go so well. Top right, after shooting security, I'm going to get a CrimeStat 1. These can go 1 to 5, 5 being the worst and 1 being the least. 1 to 2 meaning hostile, but you can pay these off at admin terminals. You're hostile right now, but if you QT and come back, they're going to forget you ever shot them. However, once you hit CS3, you only have 2 options. Option 1. You grab a hacking chip from Grim Hex around Yella. You head to SBK around Selin, which is a security space station, and you fight your way through an army of NPCs and turrets to clear your CS. Or you can go to Klesher, aka Star Citizen Prison. After fighting my best, it looks like I'm taking the latter of the two. So now that we're in Klesher, I'm going to head out of my bed and into the middle of the room. You're going to see the console here where you can see how much time you have in prison. This can go all the way up to 26.5 hours, which, believe it or not, you can still get out pretty fast. How it works is 1 merit equals 1 second, so it's 3,600 merits an hour. You could just log out and let the timer run out. Your timer does go down when you're offline, but we don't want to log out. So the second thing you can do is head to the work mines, and you can either 1. Mine. You want to be looking for Hadanite. Keep in mind, Hadanite spawns more past depth 7. Once you find a rock, pull out your multi-tool using 4. Right-click to aim at the rock, make sure it's had night, and then left-click to activate your laser. You'll slowly, with scroll wheel, increase your power into the green zone. Wait until the green bar is full and try not to dip into the red zone. If the red bar fills up, it will probably kill you. After you've mined the rock, this is a perfect time to take advantage of that new proximity loot. The only downside is you have to run all the way back to depth 1 to turn stuff in. The second way out of prison is turn contraband in, which these items happen to be on NPCs in the mines with you. If you go past depth 7, you should see comms turn off here. You can take out NPCs without raising your sentence at all. After this, you'll be free to run up to any NPC and middle click on them. This is going to trigger an animation takedown on them. You're going to loot them and then right click their backpack. You're looking for data chips, Dolvine, which are green gems, Hadanite, which are pink gems, and you're going to stay away from everything else, including the purple gems, which is Aphrodite. Depending on your crime stat, you might have to take down a lot of NPCs, but if it's just a small crime stat, 2 or 3 should suffice. Once you have your items, head back to depth 1 by following the exit signs. The turn-in stations will be here. Remember, when turning in, you may need to do 10 at a time. Otherwise, the transaction may fail. If it does, you may need to stash your gems or drop them temporarily to get the console to work for you. And lastly, you can escape prison. Now, escaping is not easy. It's a pretty tough jumping puzzle. The first time I escaped, it took me hours to figure it out. But now I can do it in less than 5 minutes. I'm sure there are tons of tutorials on how to escape prison, but I think this is a really fun challenge to figure out yourself. If you do choose to escape, good luck. Up next, we have our bug fixes. And if you ever need to revisit these, there'll be a timestamp in the description to come right back to them. Number 1 is stuck in seat bug. If you can't get out of your seat, press I to engine off and then U to power off. Hold R to flight ready your ship, then hold Y to exit your seat. If that doesn't work, then repeat the process until it does. Number 2, if you're using your ship inventory, you have to cycle into your personal inventory to use your ship inventory again. Number 3, selling items or gems in stacks of more than 10 typically doesn't work. So if you're having trouble selling, try only stacks of 10. Number 4, don't loot toilet paper in Klesher. I know, but it will crash your game. Number 5, I would just avoid bedlogging altogether. It works a lot of the time, but then sometimes it completely cooks your account. It's not worth it. Number 6, if you're having issues with QT, head into your Mobi-Glass by pressing F2. This will bring up your star map. You're going to clear your route and then you should be good to go. I like to set my route everywhere. Not spooling up for every little fraction of a pixel makes a big difference when you're going to a lot of places or traveling around a lot. Number 7, if you're having strange issues with desync or the ASOP working, or your ship's not spawning, or your ship's doing weird things, unfortunately, this is a patch where the server health means everything. If you're having general issues, it's best to hop servers. Here's how you're going to do that and make sure you don't get back on the same server. Once you've landed at a nearby station or just head to menu, you'll click Persistent Universe top left. Then bottom left, after clicking Persistent Universe, you'll notice a region tab. If you're on US, you're going to want to go EU. If you're on EU, you're going to want to go US. If you go to the same region you were just on, you'll probably get back onto the exact same server. Then the last thing I'll say to check server health and general performance. If you press tilde, it should be top left on your keyboard. That's going to bring up your console. If you type in R and then hit tab, it's going to bring up a command that should say R_display info. Then if you press spacebar and then hit 2, this is going to bring up all the relevant information you need about server health and your inventory delays. Here's the server FPS right here. The higher that is, the better. If it's above 15, that's amazing. If it's below 5, that is terrible. Next is the bandwidth in. If this gets below 0.02, or if it stalls out at 0, or if it just stalls out in general, that is bad and it means that your server is probably about to die, and that's at 30K. Last thing to use this for is inventory delays. If you hit I to open up your inventory, top left, you'll see your inventory delays. That means if you equip 10 items on you and it says 10 delays, none of those items, according to the server, are on your person. So let's say you equip a helmet and you still have delays. Well, if you walk into space, you're going to suffocate because the server does not think that item is on you. Long story short, wait till those delays are over to do anything important with those items. If you're having major delays with your inventory, it might be time to hop servers. And that, my friends, is the end of the 3.18 tutorial. After you've gotten your feet wet, there are so many more things you can do in this patch, including salvage, mining, trading, piracy, sand caves, derelicts, and racing, and much, much more. If you have any other questions, feel free to come ask me live on Twitch or leave a comment down below. Thanks again for watching. Good luck in the verse. Godspeed. This is Berks signing off.